Today's show is brought to you by Hopsdirect.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Peterball family farm, Hopsdirect.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is Hopsdirect.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to Hopsdirect.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's Hopsdirect.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Draft beer systems for events, making non-alcoholic beer and or hop water, and do I really need a water profile for my beer? This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 316. Well, hello there, and welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or call, leave a voicemail, get a $25 gift card to 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing, joined as always by my co-host. First, he is the Director of Operations over at cmbecker.com, Mr. James Carlson, and the return of the boss man, the president and founder of kegconnection.com and chief keg washer down below me, Mr. Todd Burns. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hey.
How's it?
Hey.
I have to always ask. I hate how you tell me don't ask how you're doing. How are you doing? You're always like, no one cares.
I'm kind of sick, and
you are kind of sick.
Have a upper respiratory infection and trying to deal with that. Thanks for asking.
You look good. You don't look like death.
Yeah.
Yesterday, you sounded like death. Or was it Monday? It was Monday. What day was it that he didn't come in? It was Monday, right?
Uh-huh.
So you go on a cruise. Let's just start the show off with the small talk recap of your vacation. You're cruising the Pacific. You're going down to Sinaloa, hanging out with the cartels, doing stuff with Chapo's son, partying it up. I follow your Snapchat, and you you come home and you get sick. How many times does that happen to people? They go on. I think cruise ships are just petri dishes.
I didn't see Chapo's son. I think he's in Mexico City right now. He's on vacation too.
He stood you up? Oh.
Yeah, he's on vacation.
That jerk. James and I were talking about it. I've gone on 4 or 5 cruises with my wife, and I got sick on 4 or 5 of them. Like, it was, if I went on 5, then I got sick on 4 of them. I always get sick when I go on cruise ships. Is that, you don't? Is this your first time?
I've never had before. No, I haven't been sick in so long. Before COVID.
Yeah. We've started calling you the picture of men's health around the office. You are,
yeah.
Physical fitness, I think, is what we call. Yeah, the peak, the pinnacle of men's health. So besides the sickness, thankfully, was not till you were already home, right? You weren't sick on the cruise.
Yeah, no, I wasn't sick on the cruise.
So
I felt great the whole time.
What do you think? You didn't get the booze package, but you drank plenty. I saw. Uh-huh. What did you think first of the booze that was offered on the ship? And also talk about your specific ship had a brewery on it, didn't it?
Yeah, it had a brewery, and I actually signed up for the brewery tour. So I went to the brewery and started asking a couple of questions, as I normally would. I can't help myself, about the brewing system they had. And one of the guys was like, "Oh, let me get the head brewer." I have no idea. So he got the guy, and he came out, and he basically started to tell me how it worked. And he was like, we're having a brewery tour tomorrow. So the brewery tour, if you happen to go on, I think there's only like 3 Carnival ships that have a brewery, but if you happen to be on one of those and you take the brewery tour, what's great about it is beers are like $7 a piece. The brewery tour is like $30, but they give you like 6 beers on it. So, I mean, they just fill up pitchers of beer and just throw beer at you the whole time. So
Really?
it was cheaper than buying beer, and you got a 2-hour talk about how their brewery works, and it was a pretty neat system that they had. And I was kind of shocked. I really thought it was for show, and that they wouldn't do much on it, because there's as many people on that ship than live in the town that our business is based in.
Right.
5,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you could take everybody in in Comanche, James, and put them on the ship, and you wouldn't run out of room, right?
Damn.
So, it's a lot of people. A lot of people there partying. It's a lot of beer. But he said he brewed a lot, like every other day or something. He did a batch, and it was funny because the tanks that he actually does the fermenting in, they were twice as big as what he brews in. So he was brewing 2 batches. So I think he was brewing a batch each day, putting them in there, and then fermenting. So
Interesting.
if I remember what he said right, it was a little bit different system, but it was the beer was very good. I think one of the things that really stood out to me was I had a beer on another part of the ship, and they were both the same thing, an IPA that they make. And the one in the brewery was a lot better than the one on the other part of the ship. And what I found out was they supplement it with contract brewing out of Florida. And the one that I had on the other part of the ship was probably old, because it came from the contract brewer, not from the brewery on the ship in LA. So
that's what I would have said too. I would have been like, "Oh, you didn't like that one." Every time you criticize my beer, I'm going to blame the contract brewer. That's what
yeah, it was a contract brewer. Well, one thing is that just they had one of those self-serve beer stations, and it didn't work very well. So I tried it a couple of times, and it did not work well. And I don't think people use it much. So that beer had probably been sitting there for quite a while.
While you were out of town, the self-serve beer station didn't work that great at the barn, man. What was up with that? You put locks on everything, and no, I'm kidding. You didn't actually at all.
Well, all I had to do was just not hook it up, and you're so lazy that you don't take any beer. You're like, oh, it doesn't work when I pull on the handle, so I guess I won't drink beer.
That's 3/4 true. James, I have to confess to you something. When I was at the ranch, I know where the breaker box is. His internet wasn't working, and after like an hour and a half of cursing his name, like, he did this on purpose. I know he did. He was trying to make my stay here miserable. But after like an hour and a half of that self-pit, all that jazz, I realized the outside outlet had tripped, and where it collects the signal from Starlink from his house.
Yeah, he ran an extension cord to it instead of just tripping the.
Because I didn't know which one it was.
It's not the breaker. It's just the GFCI on the.
Oh yeah, well that's
the
what.
plug.
See, I didn't realize it was even that simple. Which where is the GFCI on the kitchen? What line of?
No, I told you before. It's on the outside, the far right one. There's 4 plugs out there. It's a far right plug.
Oh man, I felt really dumb when he got back and he was like, "Hey, was the internet not working?" I go, "Yeah, you jerk, but don't worry, I fixed it when I was there." He goes, "You didn't fix anything. You ran an extension cable. You left right here on the floor." I was like, "Oh crap, I did leave that on the floor." I thought I cleaned up after myself pretty good. Todd always finds the things that I don't do. I love it.
It was really funny because I got home and I went to the barn. I was like, "This is pretty clean," and then I see my mother-in-law later that day, and she goes, "Did you notice I went over and completely cleaned the barn?"
Oh, how dare she? Did she tell you all the things I helped her with? She had a honeydew list.
You were very nice. I appreciate it.
She was very nice. She kept giving me a bunch of food, and I was like, "Mary, you don't got to feed me. Eat it. You need to eat." even though I'm like 30 pounds overweight, she made me feel special. And like, you need to eat more. Like, you're right, Mary. I do. Anyway, so yeah, Todd is back from there. Let's see. James and I filmed the first part of our overnight mash. I won't give any spoilers, Todd. You know some of it, so don't give any spoilers, because we have what I think would be a surprise ending. I can leave it at that. I can just say it did not go how we thought it was going to go. And
absolutely not.
Right? Yeah. The whole thing was a roller coaster. So we'll get that. We're going to film that conclusion on Monday. Ideally, I could get the whole thing, because the first part I already edited it and it's ready. The second part's going to be so short. I imagine I can get it up Monday night. I'll say Tuesday to be safe. So we're going to get that up, film it. I think people are going to really enjoy that perspective. And then next week's episode of our podcast, we can talk about our thoughts on overnight mashing and all that. But a lot of feedback from people about how they do it. And James and I didn't realize till we're kind of midway through the process, overnight mashing means different things to different people. Some people leave the heat source on the entire time in circulation, where I would call that an extended mashing more than like the idea as it was proposed to us was I get to mash temp, I mash in, and then boom, I'm gone until morning. Yeah.
Time. No heat, no circulation. Just let it set in its own wort liquid at the temperature we shut it off at. And I think when we mixed in the grains, we ended up right at 152.
We did. Yep.
And then you'll get to see all of that next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And then before we get to feedback and the questions on this show, it is your last call, friends. If you want to brew with us for this month's recipe, it's a delicious amber ale, which is the original Fat Tire clone recipe. Have to put an asterisk now on that recipe kit because they changed it. They changed the packaging. They changed the formula. Fat Tire is, I need to pour a 40 out for my homie, and not the Fat Tire we know and love. It's now turned into a pail. I had a bunch of people send me articles and pictures. It's now a pail.
We were the last flight to Europe. If I remember, they had that Fat Tire version. They didn't have the regular one.
They had. You're right. They had the Belgian white version, the Vitbia. The Belgian white. You're right. They did have that. I didn't.
It was a different label on the can, different looking can, and everything.
It was white and blue, I think. Which the new one kind of looks like that, but it's a whole different thing. That was like their way of trying to keep the Fat Tire name relevant, but introduce it a different version of it. Which I'm not in marketing for the macro breweries, to where I don't understand the thought process. Like, what kind of market research do they do where they go, listen, I know we're New Belgium, or I know we're Miller Coors, or whatever. We're New Belgium. Fat Tire is one of our beers, but what if it was one of our beers and another beer? Like, why didn't they just make the New Belgium whatever they want to call the pale? Why wouldn't they just do that? But they spend a lot more money than I'm worth getting the idea.
Well, I have a theory. I think it's like the new Coke and the old Coke. I think they're going to bring this recipe out, and then 6 months from now, it's going to be like original Fat Tire.
Yeah, well,
I remember when that happened. Yeah,
y'all told me about it, and someone in the comments said, like, new. I didn't realize. I don't remember this. I don't know if I was even alive. I was born.
You weren't even born yet.
Yeah, was New Coke? It was a flop. Correct? Like, no one liked it.
Yeah, it tastes like a Pepsi. It tasted just like a Pepsi.
They made it take just like Pepsi.
So why?
They made it real sweet because it was the new Coke.
Oh, okay.
Improved.
But was it like?
And then they brought out classic Coke, which was like the old Coke.
Well, see,
that's what it's going to be: New Belgium classic. Fat Tire.
I don't buy soda. I do remember though my childhood Coca-Cola Classic being what it said on the can. Does it not say classic anymore?
No, they eventually dropped that. They dropped the new recipe and just went back to the old logo, old can.
Okay.
Everything.
So the variants now are just Diet and Zero and Cherry, that kind of stuff. It's widely considered the biggest commercial flop in history. Well, someone else mentioned something. What did Pepsi do that was a flop? Was it called Crystal? Or the Crystal Pepsi? That was Pepsi Clear. Yeah, and apparently that was a flop too. I'm learning a lot about the 70s and 80s from our. Yeah, you don't mess with iconic brands. People get mad. I don't get it. I don't get the thought process behind doing it. But yeah, maybe we should reach out to our friend, field director at New Belgium, Matt Meadows, and see what he's. Oh, you know what? They can't. I'm on the New Belgium side. They can't call it classic.
because that's what they're calling the new one.
Really?
They're calling it classic ale.
Oh, I thought it was just it's just a pale ale, isn't it? Or a Belgian pale, pardon me.
I don't know if it's been fully disclosed what it is yet. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I got you. Well, they're really bad at keeping secrets.
Well, no, they've already let some of them out, but I haven't. Everybody else is talking about it, but they're not really talking about it. That's what's strange.
That is
because I went on their website a couple of weeks ago when you told me about it, and there's really much information about it now than there was then.
Yeah,
so.
you almost called me a liar. You were almost like, I think you got bad information, Josh. I was like, listen, I only have the information that I can Google, but if it's on the internet, it's true. We've established.
So, it still talks about how this is the original recipe, but it's the new can. It's very confusing.
It is very confusing, but let me put it back on the screen.
Confusing.
The fat tire we've all known and loved for the last 20 some odd years is you can brew your own. If you go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, it does ship out with the delicious strain of imperial yeast. It's house. It does ship out with hops from Hops Direct. And this is the last recipe we're shipping out. Well, no, pardon me. No, wait, no, it already shipped out. We didn't have Muntins for this one. Muntins just sent their malts. Starting next week, you'll start hearing the ads and stuff incorporated there. We are so excited to have Muntins on board with us. They're an incredibly popular British malting company. If you're not familiar with them, like I said, we will have all the details. But now going forward, our recipe kits have premium ingredients from everybody, our friends at Imperial, Hops Direct, and Muntins. I could not be more excited for 2023. Our Trub Club members are certainly in for a treat, and you can join again, patreon.com/homebrew happy hour or homebrewhappyhour.com/club if you want to learn all the different ways that you can support what we're doing, because we greatly appreciate it. So with that said, we've got a stats show starting off with
we're going to do questions.
Well, sorry. I have first, Todd. It's time for listener feedback. I prematurely hit the voicemail before that, but
I noticed that.
Our feedback is from our buddy Adam from Florida, and it's about filling 20 ounces from larger CO2 cylinders.
Hey, Josh, it's Adam from Florida with listener feedback on the filling the 20-ounce cylinders. You're spot on, Josh, about just finding the leaks. But beyond that, this reminds me of that old story where the guy goes into the pizza shop, he orders a pizza, and he says, hey, could you cut it into 6 slices, please, because I don't think I could eat 8. Whether you're filling the 20-ounce cylinders or not, or you're using the 5-gallon cylinder, either way, you still got leaks. You're still losing the same amount of CO2, so fix the leaks is your answer instead of farting around with trying to, transfer to the 20-ounce things. Cool idea, if we have the 20 ounces around as a backup, but safety reasons, of course, just fix the leaks. Have a great day.
Just fits the leaks. And that was kind of our conclusion too, guys. Well, the safety component, pressurized vessels and me aren't the best of friends, but the guy already wrote back to me and was like, yeah, thanks for saving me. I didn't want an explosion either. And I was like, yeah, the legal department made sure we disclaimed that you don't do. Well, I think we've already talked about it before, but James and I every now and then get people writing in about like, can I do this or can I do that? And James you're much more on it than I am regarding legal liability. You're like, Josh, tell them right now that you don't think they should put any pressure inside that carboy. I'm like, James, like 1 PSI? No, you tell them nothing.
Yeah, Todd's got to see that picture. It's just, it shows him he's got the gauges hooked up to the conicals, and you look at the lid, and it's just got the wire bell.
It could have been bad. It could have been bad. Yeah, it could have been bad. And we get those questions like 10 times, which I'm grateful that people do write in before doing it, because like we haven't had any people in our audience have catastrophic incidents, but Todd shared articles with me over the years of like corny heads blowing up and CO2 cylinders improperly secured and hitting and turning into rockets. And what are you smiling about down there, Todd?
Oh, I was thinking, I thought on Sunday when I transferred over the mead, I thought about, I got the carboy a little too much pressure on it for a split second. I thought about you as I was doing that. But Wait a minute. We did small talk. We didn't talk about my mead. What
I
the
forgot
heck's
that it
going
was
on
done.
here?
I forgot that you kegged it, right?
Yeah, 14 months.
I totally forgot.
14 months.
How'd it turn out?
It's excellent. It's really, really good. I'm much better than I ever expected it to. It's good. It's dry, but has a little sweetness as you'd expect from mead, but it's a pretty dry mead. Very, very drinkable. I think you'll like it. Next time you're here, we'll definitely have some.
Perfect. Well, our friend Corey Purser, she's been on the show. Normally Miss Cider on Instagram, but she also does mead. I have an extra bottle from her. What if I bring that to you and we bottle a thing and send one to her and get her feedback on it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
we need. I don't know that. I don't know. I'm still going to be on antibiotics when you get here, so.
Well, and it's technically still January, so you might not be partaking in drinking.
No, that ended with the cruise.
Oh,
I explained that. But now I'm on antibiotics, so I stopped drinking again. So
yeah. Is it a 10-day supply?
Yeah.
Ah, boo, hiss, boo. Yeah. Well, you're antibiotics and smoking cigars? Is that okay?
Yeah. I actually did try the mead a couple dates on the antibiotics and some other stuff. And
some other stuff.
Like I had, the cough syrup.
Oh yeah.
All this stuff. And I had like 2 5-ounce glasses of mead. And I was like, that probably is not a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff's strong. Only 5 ounces doesn't sound like much, but I was pretty loopy after I tried those.
Yeah. I believe
those
you.
2 5-ounce glasses.
This is the same guy who one time was on like a muscle relaxer and you chased it with the beer. And I was like, I don't think you're supposed to mix that. You go, no, it makes it work better or something like that.
That's what my doctor told me years ago. My old doctor, not the one I have now. I don't want to throw him under the bus, but he prescribed muscle relaxers. He's like, hey man, these are really good on a couple of beers. I was like, I don't think you're supposed to tell me that.
You're supposed to say that. Anyways, thank you, Adam.
Or a shot of whiskey.
Yeah, a shot of whiskey. Thank you, Adam, for leaving that feedback. A reminder, if and when you leave us a voicemail, whether it's feedback or a question, to 325-305-6107, you do get a $25 gift card to KegConnection.com. Just like our first question for this week, it's a voicemail from our buddy Peyton from Tennessee.
Hey, Josh, it's Peyton here again from Knoxville. I was really disappointed to see you outside of that purple hat that you usually wear. But anyway, I got a question for you. So I'm trying to build a Keyser for a wedding that I've got coming up. And I know you guys are getting ready to do an episode on that, and that's awesome. The coincidence of that is outstanding. But what I want to know is how many primary regulators do I need versus just the gas distributors? If I want to do 6 to 8 taps, how many of the actual regulators coming off of the cylinder do I need versus distributors? You guys are doing a great job. Thanks.
It is good timing. Peyton knows, he didn't really suck up to me, but he knows how to get his question on the show. But it is good timing. Todd, we are wrapping up your article. We've received all the photos I think we're going to get. You're wrapping it up, and someone's proofreading it for you. And then we are going to get published, have a whole new section on KegConnection.com dedicated to these event and wedding kits. We actually did a bunch of video work on it.
Yeah, I did a lot of video work.
Ton of video work. This whole project's coming to a culmination. So this is right up your alley, not just because it's a Keg Kit question, but it's a specific for events. Does that change anything with how you would design a system that's going to be implemented in the field versus something more permanent?
Well, so what he asked was, how many regulators do you need for a 6 to 8 tap beer system? And the answer is 1. You can use 1 regulator and either a 6-way or an 8-way air distributor. So that's a simple answer. The more complicated answer would be, it depends on what you're doing. So if you're serving, let's say 8 beers and they're all around, you want to serve them all around the same pressures, which is what I'd probably do at a wedding, keep it simple, then you're fine. If you really want to have a Belgium that's carbonated more, or you want to have, say ESB, and you want to have it at a lower carbonation level, then you would need a regulator for each thing that's different. Another another good example of something you need another regulator for is if you're serving soda. So sometimes at weddings, people will serve several beers and then a soda, and you can use the same CO2 cylinder, but you would need at least a dual body so that your soda would be at a higher level than your beer. So I hope that answers it.
I think you did. Sorry, I was spending so much time finding my purple hat and putting it on. Found it there.
I don't see a purple hat. I just see some kind of a beanie thing with a blue stripe on it.
I had it around the other way, and I realized, God, that hat looks stupid when it's on forward.
You know what? It looks stupid, even stupider when it's on backwards.
I see. Softball.
I mean, it's the whole reason that you're wearing it is so that your baldness doesn't show, and when you wear it like that, it just shows a big bald spot.
I don't only wear headwear because I'm bald. That's not true.
You've just told me that before. So.
I've not. I said that because you were being relentless and ruthless with attacking me, and I was like, Todd, I do it because I'm bald. Anyways, but to Peyton's question, yeah, for primary, I mean, like you said, I guess I'm wrapping up what you said. I was listening, I swear. The primary's purpose is just pumping out a single if you were doing multiple pressures on things, secondaries accomplish that. But in your opinion, Todd, is it realistic that a wedding, even with that many taps, is going to serve a style that needs, not could benefit from, but that needs unique pressures per tap?
I could never see myself doing unique pressures per tap at a wedding with beer that I've brewed, but I mean, other people may feel differently. I understand that. And
6 to 8 taps makes me want to know, Peyton, are we invited? That's going to be a hell of a party.
Yeah.
Our video for the wedding conversion, of a wedding bar, it was a 2-tap because would you say the majority of photos that came into us, Todd, were also probably 2-tap? The ones that had proper build outs, not just bunch of basic faucets I mean
if my daughter's getting married and they want me to do the taps, it'll be more than 2 taps, I'm sure.
No, sure. I'm just saying 8 is that's going to be some variety.
That's a wedding.
Yeah. That's
my kind of wedding.
That's my kind of wedding. I do like, though, that the more we're working on this, Todd, the more we're learning how many people, there's a market for people doing events or weddings specifically wanting draft beer being served there. I think it's I think it's a different thing than people are used to. That wouldn't just be draft. If they're having if their reception hall has a proper bar and they already have taps set up, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's twofold. I think one, a lot of people really like the idea of having draft beer at a wedding. Some of it's possibly because of cost, but some of it's just that it just comes across as a little nicer than having cans or bottles. But I think the other part is if somebody's a home brewer and they're supplying beer, then it gets very personal at that point. When I did the wedding with my friend recently, we brewed a Kolsch together and we served that Kolsch that we brewed together at his daughter's wedding, and that it made it very personal. It was a lot of fun. So I think it's multiple things.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but I would claim, or I'd argue, based off my very limited anecdotal experience in this project so far, a lot of people even are okay with just getting commercial craft beer. They just like the idea of beer on draft. Which is the whole idea, right, James, with kegerators at home. A lot of people that order from Kekenich, and lately I've noticed a lot of commercial kits coming through. I think people just like the idea of having draft beer at home in their man cave or in their hosting room or whatever. It's a very novel. Because
draft beer is better. That's why
it is. I agree. Yeah,
it is better.
I've had draft beer since '98, so it's a. I get used to drafting beer in a glass, and it looks better. It tastes better than. Plus, you don't have all the trash, the bottles and the cans and all of that to deal with. I just draft beer's awesome.
We are environmentally friendly. We should put that on our stuff. We're sustainable. We're a sustainable company. We're encouraging because you're right. I didn't even think about that. All the cans or all the bottles or all that. Yeah. That adds up quick. It adds up in my trash can quick. I mean, if I have it, like that stuff takes up space. But I'll say this too, what I love about draft beer at home, and this might sound counterintuitive to some people who listen. I like drinking in lower quantities. Like I like 8 to 10 ounce pours. That's my favorite. But most cans are 16 or 12 to 16, right? Or 12 is not that bad, but like 16 ounce and above stuff, I'm like, don't, because I'm a talker. Surprise, shocker. And by the time, if I pour like a proper pint or a 16 ounce pint, I'm by the time it gets to the bottom third of it, it's kind of warmed up. Where like I made those glassware for my pop, which are 10 ounce to the brim. So I'm really getting an 8 ounce pour. Boom, it's perfect. And draft allows me to, control that. And there's a whole slew of things, but it's good. I think it's cool. It's encouraging to see a bunch of people, like a resurgence of people wanting draft at home. And like you had said too, Todd, there with setting up your own system, the sky is the limit of what you can serve. And that would change, that kind of context would change maybe his implementation, his installation. Oh, you have 8 taps. Oh, maybe 2 are for soda. Yeah, here's what you'd need because those are at this PSI. If he was going to try to do a stout and nitrogen, that would be a whole separate question because he'd have to have a whole separate air system for that. But I think for people like Peyton who want to do this kind of setup, either at home permanent or for an event type thing, the best thing to do would be to call Todd at 325-356-5204 and he'll get you customized, especially as we're building this event section before we can send
we're going to have, the kits we're going to have are going to be super simple. They're just real straightforward.
Right. I meant in the immediate. I meant people listening to this episode the day we publish it, that they can call you and get you to customize the kit for them.
I'm more than happy to do that. Yeah. Or you could just get the landing page done. And,
No.
Oh, sorry.
No. I'm skirting responsibility onto you, my friend. Yeah,
I know. I caught that.
When you were on vacation, I was just sitting at your desk eating bonbons. It was great.
No, you were eating peanuts. I know.
Oh, yeah.
There was shit all over the floor when I got back.
I was eating peanuts.
That's awesome.
I did not make a mess. That is now you did blame me for my desk isn't working. I didn't even use your computer. I didn't even use it. No, it's not working anymore. What did you do? Like that's what you
didn't use it. You just unplugged everything.
The monitor. That's it. The monitor. Anyways, Peyton, thank you so much for submitting that question. If y'all got feedback for Peyton on ways you've implemented it, leave it as a voicemail. Also get yourself a $25 gift card. 325-305-6107, or you can send us a text or at homebrewhappyhour.com. Click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, and you still get a $15 gift card, which is pretty good if you ask me. Moving on, our second question is a text message. Our buddy Samantha, and she wrote, "Hi, Josh. The boyfriend and I are considering some New Year resolutions focused on being healthier. We're in a trendy town, and non-alcoholic beer, along with hop water, is growing in popularity. It's actually quite delicious." No, it's not. What are your thoughts on non-alcoholic beer, hop water, and do you have any recipes you could share? Thank you. Heart emoji. I like when emojis are implemented. That's another way to get your...
That sounds, James, I don't know about you. That sounds like that question was specifically for Josh, so we'll let him answer.
Okay,
Yeah.
Listen. I also live in a trendy town, and I wear trendy clothes, and I dress, and I have a trendy beard. And I'm young. I am the epitome of young person representation on this show. I can't judge anyone. I make jokes. Please don't leave a 1-star review, anybody. When I said it's not delicious, I'm sure you people out there are like, I love non-alcoholic beer. I drink decaf coffee. I have no room to judge y'all. I don't have recipes because I was going to throw this to James to ask, what are the keys of making you have to make the beer normal and then.
Oh, it's super simple. Super simple. So if you like an certain IPA homebrew recipe, brew it. And then when you get done, all you have to do is just heat it up to about 174 degrees for a half an hour and you'll boil all the alcohol out of it.
That's it.
Yep.
Interesting. So here's what I have heard before when this has come up, or actually, what was that homebrew con that we went to that they had non-alcoholic beer on tap? Not the cold one, but there was one they had it. And I remember asking, and they had said, like, if you're going to do that IPA, you're bittering hops, let's say for conversation's sake, it's 2 ounce, have it to 1, because apparently the process you described of getting the alcohol out bitters it even more. So if you do it the exact recipe, you might end up with even more bitterness than you intended. So like maybe, reduce it by half or maybe not even quite half, a third.
Well, here's the key is when you're doing that, make sure you're you mash in the alpha range. That way you get body and sweetness to go with it without the alcohol. And that'll help balance that out. But of course, you're right. If you try to do a real dry, like a Pilsner or a Kolsch, alcohol-free, maybe not as bad because the bittering units are fairly low. But if you try to do something kind of light-bodied with quite a bit of bittering, back off that a little bit and experiment a little bit in smaller batches to get the recipe just right. But one thing to remember, if you are going to heat it up to boil the alcohol out, be very careful moving it over because you don't want to oxidize anything.
Oh, that's a great point. How big a bummer would that be? You spend all that time just to get cardboard beer. Anyway,
but then again, boiling takes the oxygen out. So, may not. I've never done it. I just did a little bit of research online on how people are doing it. And there's a great article about this on BYO. So if you go to byo.com and search that under NA beers, that article's, I always love that magazine. It's, and thank you for getting me a subscription for Christmas.
Did it come in yet? Has it come in?
Hadn't seen it yet, but because I have that, I'm going to be able to access all the wonderful articles online. And that's a wonderful resource. A lot of the stuff I figured out was through back in the day, they had everything online. You could search their articles. And now it's locked down. You've got to be a subscriber. So that's cool.
Now.
Thank you for letting me have that.
Okay, well, it's funny. I'll get back to your question, Samantha, I swear. You always have talked up BYO. And you never even hinted about like, I just asked you one time, hey, you don't have an active subscription. You're like, no, I don't. I should. Da, da, da. I was like, okay, perfect. but you've always, literally since I've known you and you've been with Todd 6 years? 7 years? 6 years.
7 years. Yeah.
7 years. For 7 years, they get your highest praise. Of content.
They got great, well-written articles. They're easy to understand and read. If you looking up a certain style, they always have really good foolproof recipes at the bottom. So when I first started making recipes for Keg Connection, I use them a lot along with the BJCP guideline. But BYO spells it out in layman terms, so they don't try to talk over your head. And it's easy to understand, easy to read. They're a great resource for that.
Sounds like
so check that article out. It's interesting.
Sounds like what we're trying to do with the podcast, right? Like trying not to, and you again. It's funny because you've always said that's your goal. Like we can't make the show over their heads, and I was like, you don't even know me yet, James, but you'll know. I can't.
Difficult for me.
Yeah, I can't talk over people's heads. So yeah, with the non-alcoholic beer, obviously look online for resources, but brew it how you normally would. And James said about 174 after the fact, and that'll get and about half an hour. You said is plenty of time. Yeah,
half an hour should take care of most of that.
Yeah,
to a point where it's not at a level where you're talking apple juice,
right? Yeah, and then for the not the non-alcoholic beer, for the hop water, I had to look this stuff up because hop water, hop tea, similar but different. The Claw Hammer, I'll put a link in the show notes. Claw Hammer has a great video, tens of thousands of views on it, that does it better than I ever could of the whole step-by-step of hop water. But the gist is sparkling water, hop, and some lemon juice flavoring is what they used, but any kind of flavoring. I imagine the people doing that are because they actually enjoy the aroma of a hop with, you know what I mean? It's like I like sparkling water and lime because it kind of replicates Sprite to me, especially if there's a lot of carbonic bite in the drink. I can my brain's convinced like, oh, that's Sprite. Oh, it's close. I don't know. Hop water, it seems to me like a trend that might not be a big thing in like, it just doesn't, I don't know. I don't see the appeal of it. No offense, Samantha, or anyone else listening. People, this is a great time to leave feedback or voicemail. Like, well, here's why you're wrong, Josh. It's just, it's super straightforward to make. That video Clawhammer made, it shows is very straightforward to make. It's almost as easy as like kombucha or just making sparkling water. You got to make sure you pick the kind of hops that you're going to want to taste. But I don't I don't think that a recipe on that can get much simpler, but I'll put it in the show notes. Like I said, the whole process is basically having sparkling water and hop flavoring, but you guys have no interest in hop water or hop tea either, do you?
Are y'all still on that discussion?
Well, Todd,
I had some other stuff to do.
oh my gosh. Maybe next dry January for you, that's what we'll do. Well, next year, can you commit?
I'll just drink tea.
You just normal black tea.
Yeah, tea. I like tea.
Yeah.
That sounds like an answer. Our friends at
That would be good on tap. We always have sparkling water. What about sparkling tea?
There you go.
Like the old Brist. Like, wasn't that what Brist was carbonated tea from Lipton? I'm pretty sure that's what Brist. I used to get it at the store, not the store. My high school's vending machine had Brist. Yep. It was
but it wasn't carbonated. I think it was just regular.
Oh, okay. I thought it was carbonated.
Yeah, with lemon. It always said with lemon.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay. I don't know why my brain thought maybe it had the initial, but that doesn't mean it was like fully carbonated. It just had enough to bottle it. But that would be interesting.
It's probably CO2 they put in there.
That would be interesting to have carbonated tea. I actually don't know if I would like that. It would throw my brain for a loop. That's for sure. But again, I plead with the audience, if y'all have any feedback or suggestions for Samantha, or if there's I bet you Homebrew Talk is a great place to go look up for recipes. They have subcategories for everything niche about brewing you could think of. So anyways, thank you, Samantha. Again, final reminder, when you leave us a text or a email at homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or the voicemail at 325-305-6107, you get a gift card to kegconnection.com like our last person, our buddy Joe from New York. It's Mr. Joe Whiting, our good friend, and he left us a voicemail.
Hi guys, Joe Whiting from beautiful downtown Skaneateles, New York. I have a question about the dullest of topics, but important to a lot of brewers, and that's water treatment. My village has really good water source from the lake, which at one time was billed as the purest lake in the world. I'm sure that has changed, but you can drink it right out of the faucet, so you get the idea. For that reason, I've never done a water profile. That and the fact that I'm not particularly good at either science or math. In the past, I just out of habit would make my own water treatment out of gypsum, non-iodized salt, Epsom salts, and propane. For the last 5 years, I just add a tablespoon of Burton water salts right before the boil, no matter what type of beer I'm making. My question is, what exactly are the water salts doing? Do I really need them? Does it make a difference if you have good tasting water to begin with? Love the show, always learn something from it, and get a couple of good laughs to boot. I've been doing a dry January, but brewing several batches to be ready for spring, which quite frankly can't come soon enough. Keep up the good work, and oh, that's right, Joshua, you're the best. Bye-bye.
Ego stroke. Oh my gosh. This is I like this question. Our buddy Billy from the Trub Club also had written in something similar, and I told him, funny enough, we're answering this because he was brewing we got out the Fat Tire last week when I was there. So people in the club were happy, like, I got it early, and he was asking, what water profile do I use for this specifically? And I said, you're not going to believe this. We don't. He goes, what do you mean you don't? I was like, yeah, they just use RO. And he's like, Todd Burns just use, and he gets that kind of high efficiency on his system. And I go, I don't know the science behind what doing a water profile would change efficiency or just straight RO, but yes, he does. And so I'm going to throw it to you, Todd, at first, because I think at the end of the day, this is like what Joe Whiting said. If you already have good tasting water, it's probably not going to make a huge difference to the average palate. But what is your mindset, Todd, behind water profiles and why you don't do them?
I don't think I don't think the type of water you have it necessarily means that you're going to get if you say I've got good water, so I'm going to get good beer. I mean, different styles use a water profile not because that water profile was designed to make them taste that way. It's because that was what the water was where the style was developed.
Right.
So you're not really, what you're trying to do is emulate the water style where that beer was brewed or that style of beer or that brand of beer and bring that water style, bring that water style into it because that's part of that taste for that beer.
Right.
Yeah.
Which we agree on. But what made you decide not to do them with your batches? For the most part, as long as
I
I
intend on doing one every time I brew.
well, we have all the stuff too. That's what.
Oh yeah, we have all the stuff. Yeah.
I have baggies.
Yeah.
I have baggies that I look like a drug dealer sometimes when I come back from the one time you sent me home with like 5 baggies of gypsum and chalk.
Yeah.
But it was for Topo Chico. So you sent me home with a bunch of that, and I still haven't used those because I'm that's how lazy I am to just throw that in with my RO and like, oh, replicate it. But because you made Topo Chico once, and I was like, I really can't tell the difference between this and just the RO sparkling water. But yes, your premise is correct. No one's disagreeing with that. The Kolsch was supposed to taste like it came off the Danube or whatever the Rhine, that river, and from Cologne and this and that. But I just mean with you, have you done it before and you just couldn't tell the difference, or is it just always been good intentions and you've actually never done a water profile?
Never done one.
Oh, interesting. James, have you?
I've added some, but just not knowing what I'm doing. I'm like Todd. We just do RO water. pH is right there in the range for optimal mashing. I think 5.3, and we just never got into it. And then when we had that interview with Horst, he was like, "That's not as important as people think." But I just never had.
Lorena would.
She would definitely
she's a
disagree.
big believer in it, right? So,
oh yeah.
Oh, what if we host a debate night and we have Horst and Lorena on the show?
Oh, I thought you were going to say me and Lorena. I'd be like, I don't have an opinion.
No, not you.
It'd be a very short debate.
That'd be like me and Lorena debating. Are you kidding me? She would run circles around me, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, well, I'm going to edit that out." But her and Horst, that'd be a great conversation. I know John Palmer wrote the book. Return my calls, John. But we should have John on the show. A lot of people do put a lot of emphasis on it, where I'm more laissez-faire, my friends. I'm like, relax, don't worry. We've made phenomenal beer with just RO. In fact, also my pop and I, this year, that batch of breakfast stout y'all had was RO or spring water. I don't even know if HEB's spring water is considered RO now that I think about it. It's probably City of San Antonio municipal water. But
spring water is pretty much the opposite of RO.
Right, because it has minerals. Yeah, I think my dad, he'll have to leave feedback. Dad, leave a voicemail so I can give you $25 of Todd's money. He can tell us if it was RO or not. But I know like the first time we did the breakfast stout was with well water. And y'all have had every iteration of breakfast stout. It was delicious. His well water happened to be, with whatever level of minerals and all that, the pH wasn't off to where it affected our mash and affected our end product rather. But I think this is this topic can get the worst out of people in regards to feedback. Like, we're going to get people writing in like, this is why I wrote on Reddit that y'all are so cringe, because water is important.
Oh yeah, we'll get those, no doubt about it.
Yeah, be Kermit the Frog.
I think they're right. I'm going to do a water profile on my next brew.
You are such a liar. You want to bet $5 that you don't? No, I don't. Never mind.
Yes,
take it back. No.
Yes, y'all all heard. I accept your bet.
Crap.
I accept your bet.
Crap. Okay. Crap. Well, that's one way to get you to do the water profile. Why don't you do it on a batch of something you already have on tap so we can compare it? Can you do that? Do you mind doing that?
I could. I don't know. Or I could brew it again afterwards without it.
Okay. Well, either way.
Yeah.
Either way. I just mean, why don't, since I'm going to lose $5, can we make this into something that at least helps the show, where you do a style so we can just do a taste test and see, because with the brow tag, again, with electric brewing, like the 3-vessel Herm brow tag, the beautiful thing is consistency. You're going to pretty easily be able to replicate the brew day to a T, and you have the ability to replicate fermentation to a T. So there shouldn't be any outside factors that affect it.
I think it's probably a lot more important on certain types of beer. Like if you were really trying to get a regional beer exactly right, I think it would.
Yeah,
it probably makes
an
sense.
ESB, or they use that Burton on Trent water profile for a lot of ESBs.
Yeah,
I just never went down the rabbit hole with water profiles.
Me neither. Or the trails.
It's just one more thing for me to be obsessive compulsive about.
Yeah, exactly.
How? Yeah. No kidding. Golly. But yeah. Well, that would be before the brew day. So I'll just say, how would that affect all your gravity readings and temperature readings? But it wouldn't. Thank God. It wouldn't get in the way.
Here's my thing: is the gypsum will actually reduce pH, and calcium carbonate raises pH. So if you've got if you're using brewing water that you're not in that range and you need to get there, that's what you would use. But as far as everything else, that's all I know about that.
I think we can agree that at the end of the day, like Joe, he's been producing solid beer the whole time he's been brewing. And then he got back into brewing and he's making solid beer. Besides, he wrote me, poor guy had to dump a Kolsch. I'll let him explain that in the future at some point. Poor guy. We cried together. I think he would agree, and like we all agree, if you're making good beer, keep doing what you're doing. If your beer like you're like the last batch of Kolsch,
or you could change and try to improve.
No, okay, first off, what change is bad. Todd, what do you think I'm going to have for lunch today when we get off this call? What am I going to go eat?
Let me guess, an omelet.
Thank you. That's right, because change is stupid. I'm going to go eat my $29 omelet now, or whatever it's going to cost. Just stupid eggs. But no, like that last batch of Kolsch, I'm going to toot my own horn. We're at my Pops on Sunday, as we usually are. Oh my God, it is so good. And that was just RO. I brewed it out here in my garage. Fermented here in my office at 65, let it just finish naturally. It was like the least stressful, least monitored or managed brew I've ever done. And it's probably my favorite batch of Kolsch I've ever brewed. I have a little keg of it I need to bring up there to y'all. But what I'm getting at is like, I sometimes feel like the less I worry about the minutia, the better the end result is. And the least stressed I am, which is always a good thing on a brew day. There's already too many things to stress. Like Friday, we had some things that'd almost be spoiling our overnight mash. I'll just say sometimes things get to be chaotic. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
And anything I can do to eliminate chaos in my brew day, like worrying about a water profile, when it may or may not affect it. But our friends at Brewlosophy may have done a beer experiment, on this topic. But leave us some feedback if y'all have any, I would
definitely on this one.
And I would love to get two different sides. If you're passionate about water profile, let us know why. Leave a voicemail. If you're passionately like me and could not care less and just use RO, let us know why. If you do have experience, did you do an experiment yourself? Did you try it before and you realized, I could cut out some time by not doing it? But there's a whole slew of perspectives out there. I'd love to source at least two extremely polar opposite ones and then feature them as voicemails. So you can always leave that feedback at 325-305-6107 and get yourself a $25 gift card while you're at it. Joe, thanks for leaving the question. Gentlemen, that's all I've got for y'all this week. I'm going to get this edited, published, and go eat myself an Austin omelet or a San Marcos omelet. But thank y'all for your time. I'll talk to y'all later.
Cheers. All right, take care.
Likewise. And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or leave a voicemail, be our best friend at 325-305-6107. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hopsdirect.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also, get a free pack of Imperial yeast along with premium recipes from us when you join the Trub Club. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thanks for listening.